my session at the Successful Bookkeeper Summit. What I would love to do for you today is to just really give you some hints and tips around what I found has worked well for me in my bookkeeping business. So my name's Crismale-Marshall. As I said, I have a bookkeeping business which I founded from the ground up, like I'm sure many of you have, 13 so years ago. The business is called Efficient Tradie Bookkeeping, and as the name suggests, I work specifically with trades-based businesses. It is not my only business. I also have Profit First for Tradies, which is my coaching business, where I'm a certified Profit First professional, and that allows me to teach and train and implement the Profit First system in my clients' businesses with them. And I've also recently stepped into the role of CEO at Profit First Australia and New Zealand. So now I have the amazing task of making sure that we are educating and training our certified Profit First professionals to the level that we require to make sure that when they go and work with their clients, that they are using the Profit First system correctly, because it is so much more than just reading the book and implementing it in your own business. There is so many customizations that can be made for your particular type of client. And as I said, I've now stepped into that role and look after the training and education of our certified Profit First professionals. So I started out as a financial planner and worked for a decade or so in the financial planning industry, also ended up auditing financial planners, and I really loved that industry. And I swore black and blue that I would never work for myself. My parents were self-employed in the 80s and 90s. What started out as pretty kind of simple 9 to 5 Monday to Friday hours gradually just got longer and longer and longer to half day Saturday, all day Saturday, Sundays, Thursday nights, late nights, other nights. And as a child, that was not super fun. And I'm not sure if any of you are the child of self-employed people, but that was enough to turn me off being self-employed completely. And I was never, ever, ever going to run my own business. And today I now have 3. So what I wanted to do is just share a little bit about my story and some of the hints and tips that I can give you to have a think about. Now, obviously, I'm going to base them on my trades-based bookkeeping business, but if that is not your space and that's not who you work for, you can absolutely take these hints and tips and use them in with whatever niche that you work with at the moment. So the reason why I ended up going into business after being adamant that I was never, ever going to do it was because I just got sick of seeing so many people when I was a financial planner who had worked their butts off to, decade after decade to being self-employed, and they would see me 5, 10 years out of retirement, and they really had not much to show for it. And they were worn out, and many of them had major health issues, and that really bothered me. But even at that, I still didn't realize that I could make a bigger difference than what I was doing from the financial aspect. Once I had my children, I realized that I didn't want to go back into the city to work. It would have been a 3-hour round trip commute, and that was no longer going to suit me. And that was around about the time, a few years after Xero had come onto the market. And I realized that an online system like Xero would give our clients access to up-to-date and current information, which meant they could make decisions quicker and easier. And for me, I felt that that was going to be the missing piece of the puzzle that they needed to be able to make those financial decisions sooner, to be able to have the money to retire. So what I did then was started up my bookkeeping business, and I have always been 100% Xero firm. But again, I use and love Xero. If you don't, or you use other options, it all translates anyway. And so right from the very beginning, I was adamant on making sure that everything I did was streamlined and efficient and simple as possible, because at that time I had young children, and I just wanted to spend as much time as I could with them, but as well as still having and building a business, because that was really important to me as well. So right from the beginning, I always do Xero, as I said, and back then I used Receipt Bank as a receipt management system, because for me, the thought of data entering all of that information into Xero just did not make sense for me. So right from the very beginning, that is how I have worked. I've since a number of years ago now moved to HubDoc. Again, it doesn't matter which system you use, but it's just about making sure that you are using the technology to your advantage and also to your client's advantage, so that things can be simple and efficient along the way. Because what I hear, particularly with people who have trades-based clients, is that you're so frustrated with them because they are slow to get information to you. They lack communication. You may not hear from them for weeks, maybe months, and then all of a sudden they need something done, and then the communication comes thick and fast. And the other thing I hear is often that you don't find that they take responsibility, and they're often blaming yourself or the accountant for things not being done correctly. And so what I did was, right from the very beginning, I knew that that was the case, and that is typically what trades business owners were like, and I didn't want to have that. So I was very, very clear right from the outset of how I was going to work and what I expected of them and what they were to expect of me. And so those three main things were always prompt communication, clear communication, and to be proactive, both from our side, my side, and also from their side as well. And of course, when I started my business for a good few years at the beginning, it didn't feel very simple and it didn't feel very efficient, but I just kept coming back to those three key elements that I wanted, because I knew I didn't want to have a business that I didn't enjoy, because I just didn't want to go back to be employed. I knew that was not for me, and I wanted to make the most of it. So what I wanted to cover off are the 5 kind of key points that I set up and use and come back to each and every time when things feel a little bit rocky, when things feel a little bit stressful, when they feel like they're getting a little bit out of control. I just come back to these and see what is, what have I maybe got a little bit slack on. And as soon as I go through these 5 checkpoints and tighten the reins where I need to, life becomes so much easier, and I love my business so much more. Life is short. We have to make sure that we are building our businesses to work for us in whatever way that looks like. If you are the type of person who just wants to be you and you want to be able to work 30 hours a week and have some time off for family, amazing. If you want to have a team of 20 and conquer the world, also amazing. And I always just remind everybody to build it to work for you. And it doesn't matter if you're a single operator or you have, a team of 20 or anywhere in between. The basics are the same. Build it so you enjoy it. And then that will flow onto your clients, and the experience will just be so much better for everybody. So the first thing that I do, and I'm very, very clear on, is I call it the rules of the game. So for me, I love sports, and we all know that sports can't be run unless there are really clear rules. Otherwise, you have two team members, two people on opposite teams, or two different teams with different rules, and it is chaos. So having rules of the game and being very clear on what they are right from the very beginning. Now, again, keep in mind, this is not how I started with my bookkeeping business. This is what has progressed over time because things haven't kind of gone to plan. So the rules of the game for my clients and for myself, as I said, super, super simple. It must be simple. It must be efficient. So that goes from the systems that we use, the processes that we use, the communication that we have. For example, I don't want to be emailing back and forth 17 times if we could just pick up the phone and have a 3-minute conversation with our client. If it's a quick question, and if you ring that client, it'll be a 17-minute phone call, but you really just need it to be 2, then happy for it to be communicated via email. and so on. So just being really clear with your clients how you're going to communicate with them and how you expect them to communicate with you, and also being really clear around what they need to do and when. So in my bookkeeping business, we do our clients' bookkeeping weekly. So, this week we're doing last week's work, and I emphasize very, very strongly that if our clients don't get all their supplier invoices and their proof of purchase to HubDoc by 5 p.m. on a Friday every single week, then it's going to delay things. And then we're going to have to charge them more money because we are having to chase them up when we could just be doing the work. So I'm very, very strict on that. That's one of my non-negotiable rules. Your rules don't have to be mine. They can be completely different, and in fact, they should be. And just have a think about what's important to you. And sometimes that's a little bit hard to think about. And so I always go the reverse for people. It's like, okay, what really gets under your skin? What really bothers you? And then once we've identified those things, we can then find what we can do to avoid them. So the second area that I'm always super, super clear on is about giving clear instructions. So we are very process-driven. Clients know that at certain points of the month or the quarter or the year, that this is what is expected of them. We use Carbon for our system. And again, it doesn't matter what you use, but just have a system that keeps everything very clear and simple for not only yourself and your team, but also for your clients. So you don't have to be reminding them of things that they've already sent you because you've missed the email. Find a system that works for you to make life simpler for everybody. Being really clear on what they need to do every week, what they need to do every month, what they need to do every quarter, what they need to do at the end of the year for you. And again, that doesn't mean a 300-page document with everything detailed, perfectly. It could be, and what it is in my business is just a one-page document that just a really simple overview to tell them what to expect at what time. So they know the month has ended, we're going to get this email. The quarter has ended, we need to do this. And having those really clear instructions makes life much, much easier for all of us. And I also remind them there as well to give us clear instructions. And I also let them know that it's okay if they can't quite give us clear instructions at the start, because sometimes they don't know what they don't know. So they've got an idea of what's kind of not working or what they need, but they may not be able to tell us that in a way that makes perfect sense. And that is perfectly okay. We want to have those conversations with our clients because we want to help them ask better questions. Because when we can help them ask better questions of us, they'll ask better questions of their accountant and their financial planner and the other financial people in their life as well, which is going to have a huge impact on their financial situation. The third thing that I really, really encourage is that we are here to help them. Now, we are not here to clean up their mess because they don't stick to the rules. Absolutely not. We're here to help them because we ask them to make sure that they share with us what are the goals, what are you looking to do in the near future, so we can help prep them and prepare. Okay, great, you want to get a mortgage, excellent. Please go and have a conversation with your tax accountant around what your tax returns are looking like, so you're able to then have a conversation with your mortgage broker, for example. And we want to be the point of contact. When they have any financial question, we want to be the place where they come and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do I need to do to prepare for that? Because 99% of the time, any financial decision they make is going to have an impact on the bookkeeping. So whether it is they've purchased a vehicle, well then great, we need to know that they've purchased it. We need a copy of, all the appropriate documentation and so on when it happens, not 9 months down the track, for example. And so encouraging them to share their goals and dreams with us so we can help get them the right help and point them in the right direction, and also help educate them on different aspects that are within our realm to do so. And if it isn't, then we refer them on to the appropriate person. For example, if it's a tax question, we would then say, great, this is what you need to take to your accountant and ask them that question. Or tell us a little bit more about that so we can understand what you're trying to achieve. So then we can go, great, excellent, yes, definitely, that is your tax accountant, for example. We really believe that our role is to, as I said, support and educate them as well, because for most of our tradies, they are exceptional at what they do. They're exceptional craftspeople, but they've never been taught about the numbers, and they just work really hard and hope to have some money left in the bank at the end of the day. And we see it time and time again. They come to us in an absolute mess because they've had poor advice or they've been trying to do it themselves, and they are worn out and burnt out, and it is not super fun. So we want to help them with that. The fourth thing, and I touched on it briefly, was around systems. So as a bare minimum, we use Xero and HubDoc. Most of our clients are using a job management system of some description. Whilst we are not the job management specialists, what we do make sure is that the integration is happening correctly and that the information for the invoices and so on are flowing through how they should, and things aren't duplicating or being missed. Because we want to make sure that when they look at their Xero dashboard, they get a really clear understanding of where their business is at, and they don't have to be jumping between the two systems and missing things. And the fifth area that we always talk about and I always come back to is reminding them that they're not dumb or stupid are usually the two words that I get from our tradies. And again, every client will be different, but I get a lot of that, and they feel like they are the worst in the world because they don't understand their numbers. And some of them have been in business for decades. And again, I just remind them that they simply haven't been taught, and we're here to help them do that. And that we always need to keep learning. So they may have had a good grasp on their numbers 10 years ago, potentially when things were not as electronic or not so much technology was used. But as that has changed, they may not have kept up with that. And I simply explain to them that we are the same. All my team and myself, we are always learning. We are always looking at how can we do things easier and simpler for our clients? How do we make our lives more fun when we're at work? How do we make it more fun for our clients? And ultimately, how can we help them have access to really clear, updated financial information so they can make decisions quicker and they can then have, better lives and their families, and they're less stressed, and, they can have time off and they're not working 50, 60 hours a week and so on. So education, always learning is a really, really key point that I always come back to. So as I said, for those 5 things that I always look at for my business, be clear on the rules of my game, give clear instructions, encourage them that we're here to help, use the systems, and remind them that they're not silly and that we are all always learning, and that is totally okay. And as long as they're comfortable enough and we encourage them to ask questions, then we can help them be pointed in the right direction. So I just, as I said, wanted to give you that brief overview of how I do things in my business. Hopefully some of those points were valuable for you. Many of them you may already do yourself. Some of them you may have done previously and then kind of forgotten about. As I said, I come back to those every single time the business feels a little bit not fun anymore and see what's happened. And it is always one of those areas that I've potentially got a little bit lax on, and then that's what's causing the problems. Come back and get clear on that point, and then everything changes. My business, my bookkeeping business, as I said, never wanted a bookkeeping business. And I promised myself when I went into business that I wouldn't be like everybody else, and I wouldn't have a business that had bad cash flow and had horrible clients and that I didn't love, because I was not going back to being employed. So I was going to be different. The problem was I got about 2.5, 3 years into the business and realized I was exactly like everybody else, even though I had a financial background and even though I had only ever worked in the financial field, I still was running a business that was not profitable at all. And that's when I came across Profit First, because I realized there had to be a solution. And for me, I read my book a number of times and I started to implement it in my business. And I did it for a bit and it was amazing, and I'd stop, and I did it for a bit and it stopped. And I finally stuck to it and it turned my business around. And then from there, because I'm always looking to learn and educate myself on how to do things better for my clients, that's when I realized that to do it for my clients, I could get certified and actually change their lives and help them manage the cash as well. So my bookkeeping business is the foundation piece of the numbers. Gets all the information in one spot, obviously meets our, ATO requirements and so on, but gives our clients the up-to-date and correct data for them to be able to make decisions. But one of the key things that I saw was they still had trouble managing their cash and managing payments and so on. And for me, Profit First was that piece of the puzzle that fixed that for my own business. And as I said, that's why I went on to become certified. And then that's when I started my second business, Profit First for Tradies. And constantly just learning and growing and seeing how we can help solve our clients' problems has just made being self-employed so much more fun than I ever thought it would be. And you may love your bookkeeping business as it is, and you may not want to do anything else, and that is perfectly okay. As I said at the beginning, build your business for you. Really have a think about what you want and what's exciting and what's fun for you. And most importantly, I can leave you with one thing at the end here. It is connect and collaborate with other bookkeepers, with other accountants, with other Profit First professionals. So you not only have a community of like-minded people who you can bounce ideas off and see how people are doing things differently, but also so you can help your clients. So as I said, I am not a tax specialist. That is not my specialty. So I have an amazing tax accountant that I've had for over 10 years that I refer my clients to. I've got financial planners that I've worked with that are amazing that I can refer to. I've got a mortgage broker who are amazing. I have other bookkeepers that I will refer to if the client is not a good fit for me. That connection and collaboration with each other is key to not only help us in our own businesses, but also to help our clients, because your clients are going to come to you because we've encouraged them to come to you and ask questions. Then, as I said, they're going to have things pop up that isn't your specialty. And when you collaborate and you connect with other like-minded bookkeepers and so on, you're going to find that other people have different specialties. And then you're going to be able to help your clients solve that problem that they have as well. And huge amounts of stress reduction when you do that for them. You just help them make those strides in their business that they potentially never thought possible, because unfortunately there are so many financial specialists out there who don't think about the client first. And I'm sure you have seen as well, have seen so many people in such a poor financial state because the specialist they were using was just thinking about themselves and not the best interests of the client. And that's one thing in my business that is a non-negotiable. We will always look at what is the best for the client. And if that is to come on board and stay with us for bookkeeping, amazing. But if we're not a good fit for them, I will let them know that. And I will then refer them on to somebody who I think is going to be a better fit. And that connection and that collaboration with other businesses, other bookkeeping businesses, and attending summits like this and learning and hearing how others are doing it, that ongoing education is the absolute key to building a fun business and making sure that you are making a real difference in your clients' lives. Have an amazing day, everyone.